My name is Soraya. For a long time, I carried a secret. It was not my secret to carry. It was a burden made of love and betrayal. It changed everything I thought I knew about my life. I was carrying his child, but there was another child, a 2-year-old girl, a child he never told me about. This story is not easy to tell, but it is necessary. It is a story about love. It is a story about lies. And most of all, it is a story about two innocent babies, two children connected by one man. I want to share every detail with you. I want you to feel the weight of these emotions. Maybe you have felt the sharp pain of a broken heart. Maybe you are walking through loneliness right now. If my story can bring you even a little comfort, then the pain of telling it is worth it. When this all began, I was 26 years old. I was living in a beautiful city, a city with wide green parks and tall ancient oak trees. I truly loved my life. I worked at a small flower shop. Every single day I was surrounded by the sweet smell of fresh blooms. There is something peaceful about flowers. They are delicate. They are honest. They are beautiful. My personal life felt just as beautiful. I had been with a man named Callum for 3 years. He was handsome, tall, dark hair, a smile that made the world feel warm. When he looked at me and smiled, everything felt right. 3 years is a long time. I believed I knew the man behind that smile. I thought of him as my anchor, my closest friend, my safe place. We shared a small, cozy apartment. The heart of that home was a worn yellow sofa. Our kitchen was tiny, but it was full of life. Every evening followed the same beautiful routine. We cooked together. Callum usually made pasta. I prepared a fresh salad. We were a team, or so I thought. Then something shifted. A deep tiredness settled into my body. I felt unfamiliar to myself. I visited my doctor and she confirmed what I had begun to suspect. She smiled gently and said, "Soraya, you are going to be a mother." The shock came first. Then came joy, pure, overwhelming joy. I cried, not from sadness, from a deep sense of fulfillment. I walked home that day under a sun that felt brighter than usual. The birds seemed to be singing just for me. I rested my hand on my stomach. I whispered a quiet promise to the life growing inside. I love you already. I wanted to tell Callum in a special way. I made his favorite meal. I bought a small celebration cake. I waited for him to come home. He walked through the door at 6 o'clock. He looked tired from work. I sat beside him on that yellow sofa. I took his hand in mine. "Callum," I said softly, "we are having a baby." I expected him to hold me. I expected joy. I expected the same happiness I felt. Instead, the color drained from his face. He looked frozen. He pulled his hand away from mine, slowly, as if my touch had burned him. "Are you certain?" he whispered. When I said yes, he stood up. He walked to the window. He stared outside for what felt like forever. My heart began to race. A cold feeling spread through me. He was not happy. Eventually, he turned around. He gave me a smile, but it was hollow, empty. He said he was just overwhelmed. He said the news was a lot to take in. I tried to believe him. I told myself that men often feel scared when they first hear about a pregnancy. I told myself he just needed time. But the days that followed did not bring the joy I hoped for. As weeks passed and my pregnancy grew, Callum changed. He became distant, cold, like a ghost living in our home. He came home late, again and again. He always had an excuse: extra work, helping a friend. His phone never left his hand. Even at night, it glowed in the dark, message after message late into the night. Something was wrong. I could feel it. The breaking point came on a quiet evening. We were sitting together, watching television. His phone buzzed on the coffee table. I glanced down. I saw a message, and that message shattered my world. It said, "The baby is kicking. Call me." I went numb. I was only 3 months along. My baby was not kicking yet. I picked up the phone with trembling hands. The sender was listed as Gym Buddy. Gym friends do not send messages about babies kicking. Callum rushed into the room. He grabbed the phone from my hands. His face was twisted with guilt and anger. "Who is texting you about a baby, Callum?" I asked. My voice was barely a whisper. Silence. The only sound in the room was the ticking of the wall clock. 1 second, then another, then another. Finally, he collapsed onto the sofa. He buried his face in his hands, and the truth came out. He had met a woman named Petra about a year before. It was during a brief, difficult time in our relationship. He called it a mistake, but that mistake had grown into a double life. Petra was 6 months pregnant with his child. The world tilted beneath me. 2 women, 2 pregnancies, 1 man, one web of lies connecting us all. Petra did not even know I existed. She believed Callum was single. She thought she knew who he was. The anger inside me rose like fire. It was a physical heat. I told him to leave. He pleaded. He said he loved me, but those words meant nothing now. I watched him pack a bag. I watched him walk out the door. And then I was alone. I sank to the floor of our apartment. I cried until there were no more tears left. I felt foolish. I thought of every little baby item I had bought, every dream I had built, every moment I had believed in him. The next morning, I needed answers. I searched through our shared phone records. I found the number saved as Gym Buddy. My hands were shaking when I dialed. A woman answered. Her voice was soft, kind. I introduced myself. I told her I was Callum's girlfriend, that I had been with him for 3 years. The silence on her end told me everything. Petra was just as much a victim as I was. We were 2 strangers, bound together by the same deception. Both of us carrying children by a man who did not deserve either one of us. We agreed to meet. We chose a park nearby. It was a gray afternoon, quiet and heavy. When I arrived, I saw her sitting on a bench. Her pregnancy was much further along than mine. My heart broke for her. We sat together and watched the ducks move slowly across the water. Piece by piece, we began comparing our lives. Every late night he told me was a night he spent with her. Every weekend helping a friend, he told her, was a weekend he spent with me. He had treated our lives like a game. I looked at Petra and realized something clearly. I could not hate her. She was not my enemy. She was a mother-to-be. She was scared and betrayed, just like me. That afternoon, we made a quiet pact. We would put our children first. We would leave Callum in the past. Our children were half-siblings after all. They deserved a life without his poison in it. The months that followed were the hardest of my life. Being pregnant alone is a special kind of pain. I dealt with the backaches, the swollen feet, the heavy loneliness of an empty bed. I watched happy couples walking in the park. A deep sadness rose in me. I wondered if I would ever trust someone again. I wondered if I was worthy of a love that stayed. But then I would feel a small kick from inside me, and I would remember that I was not truly alone. My mother became my rock. She helped me prepare the nursery. She sat beside me in the quiet evenings and reminded me of something important. Love is stronger than fear. Always. One afternoon, Callum called. He sounded broken. He told me that Petra had given birth to a boy. She had named him Oscar, but she would not let Callum see the child. He begged me to take him back. He spoke of being a family, of starting over. For one brief moment, I understood the temptation. It would have been the easier path. Financial help, a second pair of hands, someone there in the hard moments. But I knew that path was built on sand. I could not spend my life looking over my shoulder. I could not spend every evening wondering who he was texting. I told him no. I told him clearly. He could be a father to our daughter, but he would never again be my partner. My own labor began on a Tuesday night. It was a blur of bright hospital lights and sharp pain. My mother held my hand through all of it. Her grip was firm and steady. And then it happened. A small cry filled the room. They placed my daughter on my chest. She was perfect. Dark hair, tiny fingers reaching out into the world. In that single moment, the pain of the past years simply disappeared. I named her Imada. For the first time in a long time, I felt completely at peace. Callum came to the hospital. I looked at him, and for the first time, I felt neither anger nor longing. He was just a man, the father of my child. Nothing more. A strange, quiet calm moved through me. Something had released inside me. Life with a newborn was a beautiful kind of chaos. The sleepless nights, the endless diapers, the constant feedings. It was exhausting beyond anything I had known. But Amada's first smile made every single struggle worth it. Petra and I stayed in contact. We sent each other photos of Oscar and Amada. Slowly, in the most unexpected way, we built a friendship. It was unconventional, but it was real, and it mattered. When the babies were a little older, we met at the park again. Seeing them together on a blanket was something I will never forget. Two half-siblings, the same eyes, completely unaware of the complicated story that had brought them into the world. Petra turned to me that afternoon and asked quietly, "Are you happy?" I took a moment to think. Honestly, deeply. My life was not the fairy tale I had imagined at 26. I was a single mother, often tired, always busy, always carrying a little more than I wished I had to. But I was also stronger than I had ever been. I had survived the worst kind of betrayal. I had built a life of peace, a life that was real and honest. "Yes," I told her, "I am happy. It was hard to earn, but it is real." I learned something important through all of this. You cannot control what other people do. You can only control how you respond. You can let bitterness eat you alive, or you can choose to move forward. I chose Imara. I chose myself. Now Imara is 2 years old. She is a whirlwind of energy and laughter. Callan is in her life on weekends. He sees Oscar as well. It is not a perfect arrangement, but it works. I went back to my job at the flower shop. I find joy there again, creating beauty for other people. Recently, a man came into the shop. His name is Tobias. He was kind. He had a gentle humor that caught me off guard. When he asked me to coffee, I felt that old familiar fear rise in my chest. But I also felt something else. Hope. I told him about Imara right away. His response was simple and calm. He said, "I like kids, and I am patient. I do not know where things with Tobias will lead, and that is perfectly okay. I no longer need someone else to make me feel complete." Thanks for listening to my story. If you liked it, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment, and tell me where you're listening from.